I need this. Man, McCoy should have learned to put this stuff in his hypo spray. Of course, then he'd wind up looking kind of like City on the Edge of Forever. Well, good morning, everybody. Max. You may have noticed a change of venue. I got a late start this morning. We were up late last night watching some networks put out Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. So we were watching that, which is apropos, because I thought I'd talk about some Star Trek stuff, modeling Star Trek. Somebody asked about that, and I had a model Star Trek story that I wanted to tell you anyway. By the way, just real quick, you're going to notice I'm going to start sweating. Since I got a late start today, everyone in the house is starting to stir. So figure it's probably just best to move out here. And of course, there's an air conditioner, but it's turned off, or else we'd have air conditioner sound in the background. So it's going to get warm real quick, like 10 seconds ago. But that's offset by the coffee. Well, anyway, got some complaints about the volume, so I'm going to go ahead and use the lavalier mic. Hopefully that'll make those problems go away. And I'm going to go ahead and use the autofocus, because clearly early in the morning my old eyes can't be trusted to get the focus right, if you remember yesterday's video. Anyway, I'm here in my Fortress of Solitude, the shed, and got the Jolly Green on the table from Atlantis. Want to get cracking on that. And I've got the paper thing for the launch umbilical tower from DM Products, and I've had this for years, and I've just now finally, going, you ain't the boss of me, I ain't scared of you, you just paper, and I can build you. I was thinking about something the other day. My brother and I, there's a cable on the floor. My brother and I had actually chatted about it. What does the word chated mean? I think I invented a new word. When you chat about something from your old life, we'll call it chated. We chated about something. So my older brother had one of the original Star Trek Enterprise models. And this is like one of my earliest vivid modeling memories. And for those who've had any of the real early ones that had the little stubs where the engine pylons go into the secondary hull, man, there just was not enough thick plastic there for the engines to hang right. And this is the one that had that came with the little wheat bulbs for lighting it, so you could like light up the motors, the engines, what they call Broussard collectors, and the sensor, the bridge, and underneath the sensor array. And no matter what you did, the motors just sagged badly. It was a fairly poorly engineered kit. And I'm also sweating because I just did my physical therapy. So anyway, he actually, at one point I remember, he actually, in a last act of desperation, tried melting the plastic together on the inside of the secondary hull. And of course, there just wasn't that plastic there, so it didn't work. And poor sagging Enterprise, and of course the lights pooped out in no time. The heat was great for the wires. It was like, I guess it's 1968, 69. I think the kit came out in 69, something like that. And it was just one of those things that was the later, when I got my first Enterprise kit years later, I was afraid that I was going to have that same problem. That was actually oh man, the engines are going to sag. But I had a later version of where clearly they'd gotten customer complaints, and they had fixed that problem, and the engines mounted quite nicely. In fact, that's the one that was in the video yesterday. It's up on the shelf. That may have been the first Enterprise I've ever been. It's one of the older ones that's got the big on top of the saucer section. All the panel lines are raised noticeably so, and and I lighted that myself. I got some little twinkly lights from some toy in the dime store, and everything else, and drilled holes in it, and it looked okay. And batteries are all dead. I think one of the toys quit working. So one thing about lighting a kit, and I'm speaking for myself, maybe you guys had different experiences. Anything mechanical electronic takes maintenance, and used to go lighten a kit, make sure you can get that kit apart, because at some point, even if it's got an external power source, you're going to have to replace something or fix something. It's just, I think lighted kits are cool. They're really awesome. I watch the videos. I'm like, oh. And I lighted the Klingon ship, which was real easy because it was just one bulb up in the crew section of under the doghouse, under the hat. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but they go on the shelf. They go under Glad you quit using it. It's like, yeah, you know. I think we just do it because we can. You know, way to self-challenge, do something new. But although I've seen some of those B9 the robot kits that are really impressive. The little Enterprise Incident kit I showed also, which by the way is about the hardest thing I've ever built besides that Puss Moth, was that puppy was tricky because everything's so tiny, but it has a sound card, and I have another Enterprise Incident, yeah, right there. So I'll probably do another one, and there wasn't really, oops, I'm stepping on my microphone cable. There wasn't anything really wrong with the first one. It was just, you know, I could do better the second time around. Actually, is it Starship Modeler actually contributed an article? I'll see if I can find the link and post it down below. And I years ago got contacted by some lady in Australia. I think it was Australia, who had she got the kit, I think, for her kid, and it somehow, I guess it was a used kit, didn't have the instructions, so I photographed and sent her all the instructions, which are actually pretty extensive. And I was just saying, I think I recommended to her, yeah, if he's a little kid, unless he's really talented, he's going to need adult supervision, because that is, a little kid with really sharp eyes and little tiny hands would be perfect for building one. I like to keep this a stream of consciousness, but I did just write, there's my script. I read just a couple of things I thought would be fun to talk about. Talked about the Star Trek modeling and the old Enterprise model of the lights. I was amazed how many people want to see the shed, so I'll maybe later today do that. Most of the models are under glass, and over here we have a bunch of Battle of Midway models. Now, for those who don't know, I'll just go ahead and go off. What the heck, this is what we're here for. About 8-9 years ago, I got the book Shattered Sword by Jonathan Parshall and Anthony Tully, which is on the Battle of Midway. Now, obviously, by now you guys know I'm a history geek. And when I read the book, I mean, I consider myself a amateur military historian, but I mean, building models, you guys know, I read a few books, and every box top and the side of every box I could get, which is not the place to get your history from. Found so many mistakes. But when I saw all the stuff that went on in the Battle of Midway that never gets in the movies, never gets in the mini-series, and I realized if you're going to do Midway, the biggest mistake they made with this box office bomb Midway they just made, and I did an analysis down there. I did a trailer preview and a movie preview, and which was fairly off the cuff, by the way, so I left a lot out. But what irked me was about all these movies is not only how wrong they got it, it's not so much how wrong they got it as what they left out. How many of you knew that the following things were at Midway? 4 B-26 Marauders carrying torpedoes, and they were the early pre-A models with the short stubby wings that were a real trick to fly. A dozen Vindicators, which is why I built that model Vindicator from Accurate Miniatures, and that's number 6, which I believe is a Survivor. Number 2, the one flown by Major Fleming, is the one that arguably did or did not crash into a Japanese cruiser. I want to say the Musashi, but the Musashi wasn't a cruiser. And now I'm just embarrassing myself. Anyway, so I outlined, and there are a couple of people online who have done some very detailed maps of what happened. The other thing I get tired of is that battle. Everybody talks about how, okay, we destroyed 4 carriers, battle's over. No, it wasn't. It went on for a couple more days, and a lot of more good people died on both sides, and more ships were sunk. And they always talk about how, the movies always show them, getting the Yorktown. Yorktown wasn't sunk by dive bombers or torpedo planes. It was crippled by them. It was sunk by a Japanese submarine, I believe the I-16, I think day or 2 days after the battle. And that sub-skipper, give the man credit, and he survived the war, I believe. He had to get past a complete, by himself, by a complete destroyer screen. Admittedly, the ship he was going after was crippled, but they knew the Japanese had sent subs, so, they had, the Navy was not only trying to salvage the Yorktown, but they were looking for submarines. And he barely escaped. His batteries were about dead. I mean, you got to admire somebody who's that dedicated to the cause. And anyway, so I also built a model of the USS Hornet with, of course, all Yorktown class to use in the video. And in a drawer over here, I have a bunch of little ship models so I could lay out a map. I actually did Battle of Midway for young adults, I think it was, because my niece had to do a school project. She goes, Uncle Max, can you tell me about the Battle of Midway? I'm like, I've never loved you more than right now. And of course she comes over to the house to get, and of course I got the table laid out with the maps and and 2 cameras set up, and she's like, huh? Poor girl. And she, careful when you ask Uncle Max about history or model building or sci-fi. Oh God, that's good. Anyway, oh, you guys, some of the responses you had for, I asked you guys, you know, where's the strangest place, the oddest place you've ever seen kit models sold? There were some answers that came that I didn't expect, but I think the best one was somebody stated that they found a little girl with a lemonade stand, and she had a stack of still in the cellophane models that she was selling well below store prices. And I was like, oh, that's got to be the most original. And then I thought, did she steal her brother's stash? Oh, that'd have been an interesting place to be a fly on the wall at the dinner table that night. Some of you guys talked about I don't have armor. I actually do. I'll just take a quick picture up there and put it up here. I melted a lot of it down when I did my Opus Magnus. Opus, is it Magnum Opus? When I did my Magnum Opus theatrical release, Godzilla vs. the Wehrmacht. And I melted some of them down. And of course, well, I don't know. That I melted down a 135 scale Revell Panzer Mark IV, and I almost couldn't do it. I was going to make after the movie, I was going to make a diorama with it just being knocked out, but American tanks didn't kill German tanks the way Godzilla did. I mean, you know, melted barrel wasn't exactly going to look right. And so I gave it to my nephew, saw it, I gave it to him. I gave him some of my models. You know, a lot of us ask, what do we do with our models when we get old or whatever? And I'm like, well, you can give them to the kids. Sometimes my older brother used to hang his model air, because his room got cluttered. He would hang his model airplanes from the store. My dad had my dad had a hardware store. And I remember going there and he had, I don't know what, Billy, 6, 8, 10 models hanging. I remember the Corsair. That's the one that sticks out. And I'm pretty sure it's the same Corsair kit. I mean, not the same one, because those models all did. What happened? Yeah. I do remember coming in, and eventually the models were less and less and less till they were all gone. And I asked my dad, what happened? He goes, customers would come with their kids. The kids would see it, freak out, and want the airplanes. So, you know, they were just, from my dad's point of view, there was models his son hung up there because he had to have a place to put them. He was running out of space. So Dad would give them away. Kept the customer happy. The kid got a toy, and maybe some kid got interested in modeling. So there's a thought, something you can do with your old kits. And I'm looking out the window, and there's a big old wasp out there, dirt topper. Just, yeah, door's closed, buddy. That's why I don't leave the door open for ventilation. So let's see. So I am going to get back into armor. I enjoy it. Obviously, when you got a gazillion road wheels, that can get a little tedious. But I do really enjoy building tanks. I've got I've got a couple of RC Tigers. I got a big Tagan Tiger 1 early model with what I call the saddlebag exhausts on the back, and then I've got a little $20 tiny one, and then I've got a mid-sized one that I got, with like a $40 one, which goes way too fast. Does not drive scale. Even the Tagan, it's real tricky to get to drive scale. For like $15 or $25, I found a motorized Tiger 2 at Titusville, the Warbird Museum in Titusville, Florida. And I forget the name of it offhand. But anyway, I melted that one down using gunpowder, because I wanted to make my Godzilla movie with all practical effects like they did in the old days. And if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link below. It's a faux documentary, alternative history, and my buddy Ken did the intro for me. And I borrowed a little stuff from YouTube. But, and it was a combination of a little RC Godzilla. I think it's if you look at the Godzilla stack, I think it's a second one from the left. The Godzilla pack on my Godzilla Soviet, my Council of Godzillas. Of course, you got the kit model on the far right. On the left, you have a small scale Shin Godzilla, and it's either one or two. I'll point it out. It's actually a little RC radio control. There's a squirrel went running across the roof. We actually had a squirrel as a pet when I was a kid. That's another story. So it's a little radio control. It can march straight and it can make a turn in one direction. And that little puppy was $80, $90 as beat up as it is. But it came with a rubber skin you could pull off that I was able to puppeteer a little bit. So I do plan to get back into tanks in a bigger way. I do enjoy tanks and armor and stuff. When I do the shed video, I'll probably get into all of the stuff that's down here. This shed is a mess. I suppose I can shoot the shed video as soon as I'm done with this. What the heck? We're guys. We don't expect each other to keep these places clean. But it does look like somebody set off a freaking Claymore mine in here. But the ones that are the best models, the ones I deem the best, are the ones that go in the house, and the ones that aren't. I mean, it's not that they're bad, but like, well, that one's better than that. So the AAA Ball Club goes in the glass here, and I'm running out of room here too. And I got that from that glass case for $50 from Hobby World when they closed. And so sad, but anyway. But now I'm better off than I was before because I have a hobby shop a mile away. You guys probably saw the video on Hurricane Hobbies. Oh, I did forget 2 airplanes yesterday. The reason I took all the airplanes out and put them in my photo box yesterday was folks said, "Oh, let's see your model." Well, one person said, "Hey, can we see your model collection?" You know, that's all it takes for a vainglorious type like me to. But of course, I cannot deny my adoring public. I somehow in the process, because I forgot to do the Mossy, the mosquito, the Mosquito. There's a 1/48 scale monogram mosquito that my brother built back in the 70s or 80s. That's survived. I refurbished it a little bit, but the F-105G and the Imperial Walker are all from our bedroom. Going back at least to the 90s, but I think to the 80s. And the AT-AT is the one he was telling me, my brother and I were talking about the other day. It's the one that's got the rubber bands in it, so the head you can bob the head up and down, and they still work. I think. I'm not taking it apart to find out. So and a 1/72nd scale Dornier 17, which is, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's from, what's all that box art right there? Okay, am I missing a Dornier 7? Oh, there it is right there. Yeah, that's from that box. Yeah, I took them out to dust them. So that was an opportunity to stick them in the light box. You might have noticed some of them were getting a little grungy. Like the UFO Interceptor, you can clearly see that it's 8 or 10 or 15-year-old kid. I don't know. My brother gifted that to me because there was no way I spent $90 on one. It was like $50 back then. Well, that's into my notes, but I still got some coffee left, so I'll just keep rambling because everyone's got skills. I thought I was chatting with my wife this morning before I came out here you all guys all know the ship the Rocinante from The Expanse, which a lot of folks think is the coolest ship out there, and I gotta admit, for what it is, The Expanse has really tried to, make some really credible science fiction, and the Rocinante is a very believable ship in a lot of ways. And I was thinking about it. A guy on YouTube I watch from time to time. I think I talked about him last time. Bill Whittle. He's a old movie editor and he's a theater guy and everything. So he frequently talks about movies and stuff. And Star Wars has become, just like Star Trek, in fact the two compete. I know Star Trek fans are called Trekkies. I've heard different things, different descriptions for Star Wars fans, but I've never heard what you might call a unified theory on it. In other words, one word that's been totally accepted, like Trekkies has. I guess you could call them Force nerds, but anyway, Lucasites. Hey, wait a minute. Lucasite's a real thing, though, right? I mean, it's a medical term, right? Anyway, Spielbergians. Oh well. So anyway, I was thinking, Bill Whittle had done a thing where he talked about how movies are the modern mythology. You know, cavemen and days of old, people told it in Rome and Greece and ancient Egypt. They would tell these myths about gods, and of course they were total fiction, but that was their mythos, and their society was based on it. I mean, we still do the same thing, and Star Trek and Star Wars are a classic example. They're complete and utter fiction. There's no such thing as the Force that we know of. Lightsabers are not a thing. Phasers aren't a thing yet. Warp drive and the transport are definitely not a thing yet. But and he said that Star Wars, the original trilogy, is the story of King Arthur. Luke is the farm boy. He turns out to be royalty and comes and saves the day. Pulls the stone out of the sword. I mean, the sword out of the stone. I mean, need a second cup. And I thought to myself, that's a good analysis, but I have my own theory. That the first 6 movies, in other words, the original 3 and the prequels, all 6 together, could be renamed, stand by, wait for it, The Life and Times of Darth Vader. Because when you get right down to it, if you watch the original 3 movies, and I mean, how many X-Wings have I built? I only got the one Y-Wing, but the original 3 movies are the story of King Arthur, but if you extend it to chapters 1 through 6, Anakin and Darth are really the only thread that hold them all together. And let's face it, honestly, when you get right down to it, of the 4 main characters, Luke is the least interesting, and that's not a knock on Mark Hamill or the way he did a great job. It's just the way it's written. Think about it. You got Han, who is the cool older brother, or he's the I'm going to go back here a ways. He's the Fonzie. If any of you guys remember Happy Days, he's still playing. Was it Steve from American Graffiti? The character, because Harrison Ford was in American Graffiti, which is probably why he's in Star Wars. Because it's was it Lucas or Spielberg did American Graffiti? I'm sure somebody's lighting up the keyboard right now, going, "That's what, you idiot!" I could check my phone, but I want to keep this. You may have noticed the cut. My camera had cut out and I didn't know it, so I rambled on for another 5 or 10 minutes, and it wasn't recording. Sometimes it just cuts out. But that probably saved you guys some blah 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 blah. Me just blah blah blah. But yeah, you think about it. Han Solo is whatever you want to have, the cool older brother, the cool kid in school, too cool for school. And then you've got, of course, Darth Vader, who's probably, arguably, the most complex and interesting character of the lot. And Leia, who's interesting because, not only because she's the only girl in the mix, but come on, guys. Let's face it. Every one of us, once we saw her in the famous Tatooine bikini outfit, we were kind of like, oh yeah. So I'm not going to go any further with that. We all know how Nerd World reacted to that. There were a billion nerdgasms after that scene. And Luke, although he really grows into a great character, first he's the annoying younger brother. I want to go to Tosche Station. I mean, that became such a meme. They have done some really good fan films. Was it Bad TIE Fighter Pilots? I think it's probably one of the best ones. And whoever made that, if you're out there and by chance you should happen to see this, good on you. That God, I watched that 3 times back to back and just laughed every time. And maybe you can tell a lot about a franchise by the quality of the fan films that are made. And this whole fan film thing, I think, began with a really cheap movie called Hardware Wars. made back in the 70s on film, and where all the ships are like stuff from harbor, like irons and stuff like that, and just household accoutrements. And anyway, but it's just how many. I'm having a thought, and I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't share it, but let's face it, there are certain metrics that you can tell how popular a franchise is or how well it's done. And of course, I'm coming from nerd world, but there are 4 metrics I can think of just off the top of my head that kind of tell you about how influential a franchise is. That's how many kit models are made from it, because I think that's a good metric. I guess I would have to say toys. I hate to put models and toys in the same group, but let's call them entertainment, toys and hobbies. I'm just going to lump that together. So how many toys and hobbies are made? Although I tend to think that hobbies are probably a little bit better metering stick, but I could be wrong. I guess it depends on the age of the audience. And of course, then how many fan films are made, how many people you see dressed like them at like Comic-Cons and stuff, and how many porn parodies. Well, that's about everything for today. I'm halfway inclined to go get another cup and keep drinking, but I realize this thing's going on 30 minutes. I did not intend for this format to be this long. I will bore you with something real quick, just because I don't know how to stop talking. If I did, I'd probably still have my first job. Yes, I managed to get fired from Burger King. They didn't have... Okay, you don't want to hear that story. Anyway, no unresolved issues there. So, what the heck was I talking about 10 seconds ago? Woo, squirrel. Well, I'll let you go. Come on, Max, Jesus. I don't want to have to edit this thing, but I thought I had a good thought, and... Good night, Gracie. Oh, you guys want to see the cat? Here's a picture. And I'll talk to everybody later. Oh, I remember. Because I was going to talk about Star Trek, I had planned to put the Star Trek cabinet behind me, but because of the way the glass and lighting is in the house, there was just glare bouncing all over the place. It's got a big mirror. Those cabinets have mirrors in back. There was so much glare and everything, you couldn't see anything, and the door doesn't slide far enough to get the glass cover out of the way. So it wasn't going to work. That's why I came out here. And okay, that's that. And we will see you guys later.